At a quiet, old cemetery, a remarkable story unfolds. A loyal dog, against all odds, stood by its owner's grave. This was no ordinary bond. The dog, with eyes full of sorrow and a heart filled with love, refused to leave day after day. People passing by felt an invisible pull, drawn to the deep connection between the man who had passed and his faithful friend. The scene was both moving and mysterious, sparking whispers and questions among the community. How could a simple dog show such loyalty? What secret tied him so deeply to this resting place? In a world where many animals move on, this dog stayed, guarding his owner as if protecting a precious memory. Today, we explore this touching story of unwavering love and unexpected resilience. This is a tale that promises to reveal hidden truths about loyalty and the enduring spirit of companionship, leaving you with more questions than answers. Stay with us as we unfold this dramatic and heart-wrenching story that is sure to leave you in tears. In a quiet town where life moved at a gentle pace, there was a small graveyard that held many memories. Among these memories, one story stood out, a story of a man and his loyal dog. Long ago, a kind man lived a simple life. He was known by his warm smile and the care he showed to everyone around him. But what made his life even more special was a constant presence of his faithful dog. This dog was not just a pet. Every day, the dog walked with the man, sharing in his joys and sorrows without a word. The two would stroll through the town, their bond clear to all who passed by. Neighbors would often stop and watch, touched by the simple yet deep friendship that connected them. The man's gentle nature and the dog's silent loyalty created a story that many in the town admired and remembered. Over time, the man grew older and his steps became slower. Yet the dog never left his side. The morning walks became a quiet ritual, a time when the man and his dog shared moments that needed no words. In these moments, the bond between them grew even stronger. It was a bond built on trust, care, and a promise that they would always be there for each other. But life can be full of hardships. One day, the man fell seriously ill. The once bright home grew quiet, and worry spread through the town. Friends and family gathered around to offer comfort, but the dog stayed by the man's side more than ever. With soft eyes and a gentle nudge, the dog tried to offer the love and support that words could not give. Every day, through the pain and the fear, the dog remained there, a constant reminder of the deep friendship they shared. The inevitable day came when the man took his last breath. The whole town felt the loss, and the quiet graveyard now held a final resting place for a beloved soul. On the day of the funeral, the dog did not leave. While everyone else mourned, the dog sat silently by the grave, as if trying to hold on to the memory of the man. The scene was simple, yet it spoke volumes about the strength of the bond they had shared. After the man's burial, many wondered why the dog continued to stay by the grave. Every day, rain or shine, the dog returned to the spot. It would sit quietly, sometimes looking longingly at the gravestone, sometimes even resting its head on it. The sight was both heartwarming and puzzling. Neighbors whispered to one another, try to understand the deep connection that could make a living creature remain in one place, guarding a memory. This simple act of loyalty quickly became a symbol for the whole town. It reminded everyone the power of love and the ties that bind us, even after one is gone. People began to see the graveyard not just as a place of rest for the dead, but as a reminder that love does not fade with time. The dog's daily vigil was a small, quiet promise that the man was still there in spirit. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the mystery of the dog's devotion grew. Some believed that the dog was waiting for its friend to come back. Others felt that the dog was keeping a secret promise made long ago, a promise of eternal loyalty. There was even talk among the town's elders that the dog had a special sense, a way of knowing that some bonds were too strong to be broken by death. The gentle routine of the dog brought comfort to many who had also lost loved ones. Its steadfast presence became a lesson in resilience, a reminder that even when we are faced with great loss, the memories and love we share can live on. The graveyard, with its quiet paths and ancient trees, slowly transformed into a place where the story of the man and his dog was told over and over again, inspiring hope in those who needed it most. Every visit by the dog was a small act of remembrance. Its eyes, filled with a soft sorrow, spoke of a longing to keep the man's memory alive. The dog's routine, so simple yet so full of meaning, touched everyone who saw it. It was a living symbol of the truth that love, once given, never really dies. Instead, it lingers, growing and changing as time passes, much like the memories of a dear friend. This deep bond between a man and his dog is a story of unwavering love and quiet strength. It shows that even in the face of loss, some promises endure beyond our understanding. The silent testimony of the dog, sitting by the grave day after day, invites us to reflect on the ties we hold dear and the ways we keep our loved ones close, even when they are no longer with us. Before we move on to the next part of this dramatic story, take a moment to let the weight of this tale sink in. The simple acts of loyalty and love shown by the dog have set the stage for what comes next, a moment that will change everything you thought you knew about loss, love, and the unseen bonds that tie us together. For those who have followed this touching story so far, your interest shows how much you value true loyalty. Stay with us. This next part of the tale brings a moment so intense it changes everything. On a cold, gray morning, the air felt heavy as if the sky itself carried the weight of sorrow. The dog, as always, was there by the gravestone. But today, something in its stance was different. The faithful companion sat rigidly, its eyes fixed on the worn stone that held the name of its long-gone owner. In that still moment, the quiet cemetery was filled with an unspoken promise that nothing would ever be the same. A soft drizzle began, each drop adding a gentle patter to the silence. The rain mixed with the mist that hovered near the ground, blurring the edges of the old gravestones. Yet, amidst the dampness, the dog's figure stood out like a beacon of unwavering resolve. Its fur, darkened by the light rain, shimmered in a way that made it seem almost otherworldly. The creature was not just present. It was determined, as if it carried a memory of its owner deep within its soul. As the minutes passed, a few locals who had come to pay their respects paused to watch this moving scene. One elderly man, eyes filled with memories of his own loss, whispered to himself, "That dog has a heart that will not let go." Even as the rain fell harder, attempts by a couple of visitors to call the dog away went unanswered. A gentle voice from behind, perhaps a caretaker, softly urged, "Come on, friend, it's time to move on." But the dog only looked toward the stone, its ears perked and its body tense, as if it heard a call that no one else could. Then came a moment that sent shivers down everyone's spine. A sudden gust of wind swept through the cemetery, carrying with it a chill that cut through the damp air. Leaves and small branches danced in the wind, and for a split second, the sound of nature's orchestra seemed to pause. The dog lifted its head as if listening to something beyond the ordinary, a sound not from this world. In that breathless instant, its eyes glistened with both hope and a deep sorrow that no words could capture. Witnesses described the scene as if time had slowed. The dog, usually calm and steady, now shifted as if caught in an invisible tug-of-war. It stepped closer to the gravestone, almost pressing its snout against the weathered surface. There was a quiet urgency in its movements, a silent plea to a friend who was no longer there. The rain did not wash away the picture. Rather, it added a shimmering layer of emotion to the entire scene. People watching from a distance exchanged looks of wonder and grief. Some recalled the many times a dog had come to the grave, day after day, as if waiting for a sign, a return, or perhaps an answer. That day, the usual ritual took on a new meaning. The dog's behavior was not just about loyalty. It felt like a message from another time, a connection that bridged the gap between life and death. As the wind calmed, the dog sat back down, but this time its eyes did not rest. They moved slowly across the names on the stone, lingering on each detail. It was as if the dog was trying to decode a message left behind, searching for clues in the silent script of the grave. The quiet murmurs of onlookers grew softer, respectful of the deep, personal moment unfolding before them. A young woman, who had come to scatter a few flowers at the grave, found herself overcome with emotion. "I've never seen anything so real," she said softly, her voice barely audible above the patter of rain. The dog's stance, its unwavering focus, seemed to hold a secret promise, a promise that the bond between a man and his loyal friend was stronger than death itself. In that single unforgettable moment, every heart present felt the sting of loss and the enduring light of love. As the scene unfolded, a subtle change took place in the dog's demeanor. It began to move its head slowly from side to side, almost as if it were trying to catch a familiar scent carried by the wind. The act was gentle yet powerful, a silent reminder of the many days spent side by side with a man. The dog's eyes, bright yet sad, told a story of a life intertwined with love, loss, and hope that refused to fade. A hush fell over the crowd as the dog turned its gaze upward, as if expecting to see its owner's face among the clouds. The rain slowed to a mist, and in that soft light, the grief in the air was mixed with a quiet anticipation. Was this a farewell, or a call for something more? The answer lay hidden behind the deep, soulful look in the dog's eyes, a look that seemed to say, "I am still waiting." In that charged moment, it was clear that the dog's refusal to leave the grave was not just a simple act of loyalty. It was a silent vow to preserve a bond that even time could not break. Every detail of the scene, from the gentle patter of rain to the wind that whispered through the trees, seemed to echo the sentiment that love endures beyond the boundaries of life. The dramatic pause in nature itself lent weight to the mystery of the dog's steadfast presence. Questions now echoed in the hearts of everyone watching. What was the dog waiting for? Could the bond between a man and his pet really surpass the finality of death? And, most haunting of all, was there more to this moment than a simple act of remembrance? The answers, it seemed, lay just beyond the veil of the visible, a secret held within the silent eyes of a dog who refused to let go. The dramatic moment left everyone with a deep sense of wonder and sorrow, as if they had witnessed not just a scene, but a promise of something greater yet to come. It was a moment that would linger in the minds of all who saw it, urging them to reflect on the true meaning of love, loss, and the ties that bind us together. In the days that followed the dramatic morning, the town found itself wrapped in a quiet mystery. The dog's behavior, once a steady routine of devotion, began to change in subtle, almost unnoticeable ways. Every day, it returned to the grave, but now its gaze held a new kind of focus, a watchful alertness as if it sensed something different in the air. At first, neighbors thought the change was due to the weather or perhaps a shift in the dog's health. Yet as time passed, it became clear that this was no ordinary change. The dog would pause longer than usual, its ears twitching at distant sounds, as if listening for a message from beyond. Some locals whispered that on quiet afternoons, a gentle rustling could be heard near the grave, like soft footsteps or a hushed voice calling out in the wind. One early morning, as the light broke softly over the horizon, a middle-aged resident noticed the dog moving away from the grave. It trotted slowly toward an old oak tree on the edge of the cemetery, a tree that many believed held secrets of its own. The dog circled the tree twice before stopping and sitting, as if waiting. In that silent moment, a feeling of anticipation rippled through the few onlookers. It was as if the dog was signaling that there was more to this story than a simple act of loyalty. For those watching closely, this new behavior was a re-hook into a deeper mystery. If you're following along, you might wonder what the dog sensed at the tree. Was it a hidden clue to a past long buried, or perhaps a sign of something unexpected yet to come? The suspense was palpable, drawing everyone further into the enigma. A few days later, another event deepened the mystery. A local handyman, while repairing a fence near the graveyard, noticed fresh paw prints leading away from the grave. They were larger and more defined than before. Curiosity led him to follow the trail, which wound through a narrow path behind the cemetery. He paused at a small clearing where the prints ended abruptly near a fallen stone. There, he found a tiny, almost unnoticeable object partially covered by leaves, a locket, old and tarnished. It bore the initials of the deceased man, suggesting a connection that went far beyond a simple farewell. This discovery sparked whispers throughout the community. Could it be that the dog was not only guarding the grave, but also trying to communicate a hidden part of the past? Was the locket a clue left behind by the man himself? Or was it something the dog had found along its silent journeys? The uncertainty deepened the emotional gravity of the story, leaving many to wonder about the true nature of the bond that existed between the man and his faithful companion. Meanwhile, the dog's routine took on an almost ritualistic air. Every afternoon, it would return from its mysterious wanderings and sit at the base of the grave as though gathering its thoughts. Its eyes, once solely filled with sorrow, now shimmered with a quiet determination. It was as if the dog had taken on a mission to piece together a puzzle that only it could understand. At one point, a local reporter, drawn by the unfolding mystery, captured a short video of the dog at work. In the clip, the dog is seen pausing at a weathered stone, then slowly turning its head toward the distant hills, as if watching for something unseen. The video quickly spread among the town's residents, fueling speculation that perhaps the bond between man and dog was intertwined with secrets of the past. For a moment, everyone felt like they were part of a hidden story, one that promised more surprises with each passing day. As curiosity grew, the community began to come together, sharing stories of their own lost loved ones and the silent signs of remembrance they had witnessed. A quiet understanding emerged that love and memory have a way of persisting, sometimes in forms that defy explanation. The dog's actions were no longer seen simply as an act of loyalty, but as part of a larger tapestry of human emotion and mystery, a living link between what was lost and what might still be found. And then, on a particularly foggy evening, the tension reached a new height. The dog, as if summoned by an unseen force, broke its usual pattern. Instead of returning to the grave, it wandered toward the old oak tree again. This time, under the dim glow of the setting sun, it stopped at a spot right beneath a thick branch. There, something caught its eye, a glimmer of metal half buried in the soil. The dog pawed at the earth, unearthing what appeared to be a small, rusted box. In that moment, the air grew still. Neighbors watching from a distance held their breath, their hearts pounding with anticipation. What could be inside the box? Was it a remnant of the past, a final token of the man's life, or something entirely unexpected? The scene left everyone with a mix of awe and trepidation. The mystery, layered with silent questions and hidden meanings, had grown even more profound. Before the evening could fade into night, the dog sat back, its eyes fixed on the uncovered box. It was a sight that sent shivers down the spine, this living symbol of loyalty holding the promise of secrets yet to be revealed. And as the last light of day disappeared, one thing became clear. The story was far from over. The uncovered box lay open in the fading light, a silent keeper of secrets too heavy to name. The dog sat motionless beside it, its eyes fixed on the contents as if guarding a truth that could shatter everything known. A sudden rustle in the nearby trees broke the stillness, a sound that sent a ripple of unease through the onlookers. In that brief moment, the air thickened with anticipation, and the dog's gaze sharpened as if it sensed a presence emerging from the shadows. Then, as if on cue, a creaking sound echoed from an old, barely noticeable gate. The box trembled slightly, hinting at revelations waiting in the dark. With one last, piercing look, the dog turned its head toward the mysterious noise. The screen of night fell abruptly, leaving behind only the promise of an unfathomable secret, one that begs to be discovered.